out shopping. I watch Caribbean Predator.
Castle, where most slaves were shipped from Senegal. Wherever they treated the slaves, they bring them to Elmina, and this, where we take a picture from, was a place the ships parks, and also they take the slave through the door of no return. Now we are flowing through the principal street of Elmina. Elmina has a population of about 1,005, and they are mostly in fishing. As we're going on the way, you are going to see some of their local ships. And also, Elmina is a birthplace of the UN Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan. So now, as you can see,
So this is when Kofi Annan was born?
yeah. This is Elmina.
Welcome once again to BVC's Caribbean Body Talk, where the vision gets clearer every time, and Black history and culture are a part of our vision. This is day 3 in Ghana, West Africa, and we are right in front of Elmina Castle. Elmina Castle, Portuguese reached Elmina in 1471. It was built by the Portuguese 1482. First European fort on the Gold Coast, improved before 1500. Let's go on inside, see the history of Elmina Castle.
can go.
And we're in Ghana, West Africa. We are here with our tour guide, and your name, sir, is?
Stephen Corson.
And he will take us through Elmina Castle. The tour begins right now.
Right. This castle is the St. George's Castle. It is the oldest, the largest, and the most important historic monument in tropical Africa. It was built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. The Portuguese came here to trade for gold, ivory, spices, and artifacts. The ground floor rooms all over were then used as warehouses. In 1521, the same Portuguese converted these warehouses into slave dungeons for the female slaves. The males stayed in dungeons bordering the main courtyard down there. They were separated just to discourage pregnancy and childbearing among the slaves. In 1637, 29th August, the Dutch drove out the Portuguese and took over this very castle. Before this time, the Portuguese defeated the Dutch twice, in 1596 and 1625. The Dutch stayed in this castle for 235 years and sold it out to the English in 1872. By then, the Dutch had already defeated the English twice, in 1871 and 1872 respectively. The English used this very castle as a naval base, as well as a sub-administrative center, from 1872 to 1939. Between 1939 and 45, the English trained soldiers in this very castle, the Royal West African Frontier Force. These soldiers, who were West Africans, fought in Burma, India, and Ethiopia as frontline soldiers for the English during the Second World War. Then from 1948 to 1972, this castle was used as a police training school. In 1979, it was designated World Heritage Status by UNESCO. It is at present 517 years old. It covers a total land area of about 97,000 square feet, but it was named by the Portuguese after their patron saint, St. George. Hence, the castle's name, the St. George's Castle. The very courtyard we're standing on now was built by the Portuguese 517 years ago as a reservoir of water, a cistern. This stored 20,000 gallons of water for the Portuguese. It was rainwater from the roofs through pipes that were laid in the walls down to it. And this is how it looks like. In 1637, When the Dutch took over the place, they said, no way. We are not going to use this system. Why? Because the Dutch never trusted the Portuguese. So they thought the Portuguese might poison them. Because of that, the Dutch built a bigger cistern in the other courtyard over there for 60,000 gallons of water. So this cistern, the Portuguese cistern, has been abandoned since 1637 and covers the whole courtyard. Yes. At the time, there was no West Africa. The West African coast was known as the Guinea Coast. And the same coast was divided into portions. From Ghana all the way to the Cameroons was known as the Slave Coast. Ghana itself, the Gold Coast. Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. Then beyond Cote d'Ivoire to Liberia, the Grain Coast. The same coast was known also as the White Man's Grave. It was because of the prevalence of malaria and yellow fever, for which there were no known cures or vaccines. This made the situation such that the Europeans who came here came without their wives. They came without female. The governor stayed up there alone. The merchants were there alone. The army officers and the soldiers also stayed here alone. And these Dutch soldiers, especially who stayed here, were not professionals. They were criminals and ex-convicts. They were also afraid, leaving this castle for the township to look for women. So any time they needed the service of any woman, they had to fall on the female slaves here. When the governor himself needed a woman, he stood up there in that balcony. Whilst there, he instructed the soldiers to bring out some of the girls and the women girls, but not the women. The girls and the women girls here. From there, the governor made his own choice. Whoever was elected by the governor was given a bath right here by the soldiers with water from this very cistern. And that was her first bath ever in this castle. From there, the soldiers gave her an escort that way, and straight up, she continued her journey to the governor's residence, using the governor's private access, which is right in there. Let's have a look at that one too. Private access. 3 ladders like this, with a trap door at the very top of it. That trap door was opened for the woman to be able to continue her journey from here straight up to the governor's residence. In fact, this access is the shortest possible route by the fly of the crow from the female dungeons to the governor's residence. No woman ever stayed up there with the governor permanently, no. You only paid the governor a visit. From there, you returned and stayed in this dungeon. But while you were in here, they were also on the lookout to see whether you were going to get pregnant or not. Whoever got pregnant in here was sent out of this castle to the township, where she stayed in a community home till she gave birth. At a point in time, the baby was taken over by their fathers, whilst the mother was granted her freedom forever. These babies, the mulattoes, were trained and used as soldiers, merchants, accountants, and clergymen. But for easy identification, they were named after their fathers. Van Dyck, Viala, Lutrot, Van Leer, Wartenberg, Boham, Vroom, DeWitt, Duncan, Platt, De Heer, Cole, Korangel, and so on and so forth. These offsprings at the time never considered themselves to be Africans in any way. So there were clashes all the time between these mulattoes and the crossbreeds. But today there are no more clashes because they've now been absorbed into the system. Yet they can still be identified by their names. Some of the female slaves refused to allow themselves to be used as vessels just to satisfy somebody's sexual desires. And these ones were seen to be very difficult, stubborn and rebellious. So they were punished. For their punishment, 8 solid cannonballs were placed on the female slave yard. And there we have 1 at the moment. 7 of the 8 balls are missing. The ball over there weighs about 4 kilos. So we're going to move out of this place to the courtyard so I demonstrate how they were actually punished.
I'm Leonard Akins-Harley for Caribbean Body Talk, and we will continue with the history of Elmina Castle. Stay with us.
Whoever was to be punished was fettered with chains. Leg, hand to a ball, leg, hand to another ball, like that. Then she was left there in the open, in the sun, in the rain, without food and water, for as long as whoever was punishing her desired. She could be here for 5 days, 7 days, 1 day, 3 days, or what. It was all for that guy to determine. While she had fettered to the chains, there was nothing she could do but just to remain here like that. So this ball, which weighs about 4 kilos, and 7 other balls were placed on this courtyard just to punish some of the female slaves, those who were seen to be difficult, stubborn, and rebellious. We are now visiting the largest female dungeon, and that's it right now. This very dungeon, the largest female dungeon, was an all-in-one apartment, a complete flat. It accommodated between 150 and 200 women. They stayed in here for about 3 months. Because the ships used 3 months to traverse the triangular route from Africa to the West Indies, to Europe, and back to Africa. If it was from Africa to the West Indies to the Americas, then it was more than 3 months. It was in here they slept. The bare floor, no beds, no mats. It was here they were fed twice a day, in the mornings and in the evenings. But whatever they were given was just enough to survive them. Something small. It was in the same room they eased themselves into containers that were placed in the corners to be cleared from time to time by domestic slaves. Were also Africans.
Were they clothed while they were here?
I doubt. Because if you were captured, for example, on your way from the farm, you were just in those thatched clothing. By the time you walked all the way from that place to this place, you wouldn't like to put it on again. Because even if it were to be on you, you pass your menses in here for 3 months without a single bath. So you wouldn't even like to put it on again. There were also no windows, just these openings with iron bars and gates. But because the place was much overcrowded, you can as well imagine the amount of air that was actually in here. Very little. So that vent over there was created just to augment the situation. But for all you know, that vent over there leads to the magazine where ammunitions were stored. Meaning the air that came out of that vent was impure, contaminated with poisonous gases, especially gunpowder. By the time the ships arrived, more than half of them were dead. Yes. Should one look at the situation more critically, one will come to the realization that the stay in the dungeon in itself at the time was perhaps part of the selection process. A way to select the strongest, the hardest, the toughest, and the fittest, just to go to work on plantations, in the mines, and in households in the Caribbean, the Americas, and Europe. With the boats and ships waiting out there, the survivors vacated these dungeons straight for boats first, from there to ships and off the continent of Africa. We are now going to move through the same routes till we get to the final point, the room of no return, where we have the final exit, the gate of no return. The female route first. What we have here served as the female slave exit. From the dungeons, straight through this, down there over steps, and when they got in there, the female for the first time joined the male. From there, they all moved on to the room of no return, and from there out onto the boats. These iron bars here were fixed in 1948, just to prevent accidents. At the time, the police were in here training. Yes. The steps are also no more because of a drain we have put in place. So water will not stand on the courtyard to weaken it. For the first time again in this very castle, a husband might meet the wife in there. A brother, the sister. Yet they were all individuals. It was for each and every one of them to think about how he or she was going to survive. There were no affiliations in there, no relationships in there. It was indeed a situation of each one for himself, God for us all. So here we have the female slave exit. A means to an end, but not an end in itself. We are now going to deviate a little to use the male route to be able to get to the room of no return. So we're moving out of this place to the main courtyard down there. This very dungeon was a special dungeon. It was used as a transit dungeon by the male slaves. This vent here gave them some air and light, and the two there also gave them some air and light. The very hole up there in the roof was a peephole. Up there the soldiers stayed. When they finished eating, they just pushed the pieces through that peephole down in here for the male slaves in here on transit just to struggle for. At the same time, these soldiers made fun of it up there. Whilst in here on transit, they were only waiting for one thing, for the last straw to break the camel's back, for the sirens to blow. The very moment they heard the sound, boom, from the ships, they knew the die was cast. So they left this room for the next one over there, joined their female counterparts, from there to the room of no return and out onto the boats. We're going to continue the same way. But as a caution, the door there is shorter than the normal, so you have to watch your heads. There's also a step there. You got to step down one, then you continue straight on. Yes. So please take care whilst you get. Yes.
For those of you just joining us, welcome back to Caribbean Body Talk. We are in Ghana, West Africa at Elmina Castle, and we are taking the same route that the slaves were taken through to the awaiting boats. Our tour continues with our guide.
This very room was the room of no return. The very exit here was the final exit, the gate of no return. This gate was narrowed by the Portuguese from this extent to that, just to prevent escape. The sea at the time was all up to the castle, but now it has receded. So we had the boats just here, waiting impatiently about what was going to happen to them. All they knew was to leave this room for the boats.